Welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. My name is Amber Larkins, published photographer, storytelling expert, visual artist, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach. This podcast was born from one question: how do I get inspiring stories of triumph out to the people who need to hear them the most? Come with me, enter my world, where lives are getting changed, heroes are getting developed, and greatness is being achieved. Welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. I am Amber Larkins, your host, and today I have with me John Katz, a very special guest. I'm excited to have him here. He is an online coach. He specializes in trauma and personal development. He focuses on anxiety, depression, people that are struggling with their weight or overweight, and any self-worth issues, suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, tendencies. And I'm really excited to get his opinion and his thoughts today. So John, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's jump right in. Why don't you tell our guests just a little bit about yourself and about your coaching?
Absolutely. I lived for a very long time in an extremely dishonest manner. The manner I lived in was very dishonest, but it's also very common. What I understand about the vast majority of people is that we are expected to live in a manner that runs absolutely contrary to our conscience. And this is the default mode of being for most people. This is why most people have some issues around feelings of low self-worth, problems with self-perception, issues in their relationships, issues with their family, trauma, unhealed, anxiety, depression, just negative states. I had all of these, and I normalized it within. I felt, okay, this is the way that I'm just going to feel forever. And in changing what I did and changing into who I am today, I began to understand that just because something is normalized, like in this country, it is normalized to be obese, it doesn't make it normal. It's normalized to have mental health challenges that are medicated through pharmacological means. It's been totally normalized. Most people I know have some way of coming to terms or avoiding their pain by using drugs, alcohol, or something like that. That's been normalized. All of these behaviors that had been normalized made me feel like this was the state I was going to be in for a long time. And this caused a lot of problems in my life. I had been running from some trauma, childhood trauma, for a while, and in engaging these normalized but abnormal behaviors deeply compounded that trauma within me. Everyone I was around, my friends, so-called friends, coworkers, contemporaries, they all engaged in these same low-level behaviors, and it hurt me. It hurt me real bad, and that's why most people I know and most people we all know are in some sort of pain, because they've engaged in these normalized but totally abnormal behaviors. It took a seriously deep hit for me to understand that just because these behaviors are normalized, it doesn't make them normal. It in fact makes them extremely abnormal, which is why they hurt us so much. And it was a rough go for me for a while. I mean, I had to reach the brink of suicide in order to finally get my life together and finally change what I did every day.
I have thought this as well, this idea of normalizing things that are abnormal. And I think there starts to be a little bit of a decline in a culture when we start to normalize things that are not necessarily normal. And it's really bad for the mental health epidemic in our country and just in our culture and in the day and time that we live. Do you work with people? I mean, I know you specialize in these things. Do you work specifically with people that have mental health issues?
It's the most common reason that people are drawn to me, because our mental health and our physical health are closely linked. They're one and the same. If we look at the manner in which someone presents themselves, it's a direct reflection of the manner in which they perceive themselves, because the manner in which they perceive themselves is a direct reflection of the actions they've taken. You take a certain number of actions, creates a physical presentation, and then you judge yourself on the way you present yourself. So if you look a certain way, you're automatically going to have challenges around the way you think about yourself in your life because you present yourself in a certain way. Most folks find me due to they might believe it is a physical ailment. I want to look better, but really most people that want to look better, they want to feel better. And then other folks are a little more aware and they say, I need to feel better about my life, and I can't feel good about my life because of the way I look. I live in New York City. I'm a born and raised New Yorker, and New York is a very wealthy city. And what a lot of people don't get about New Yorkers is that people in the middle and the upper spectrum of economic situation are no better off internally than folks that are less well off economically. In fact, a lot of the rich in New York are miserable. I make content about this regularly, that they have a different set of problems based on the same challenges. So people in the lower end of the economic spectrum believe that money is going to solve their issues. However, if you don't have good habits and you do have money, you're still going to feel internally at odds with yourself. You're still going to need, quote unquote, need that Lexapro. You're still going to run to food. You're still going to have resentments against your family. Your family is still going to resent you. So it is about everything at once. We are looking at the whole person. We are looking at the way they look, which is the way they feel, and the way they feel is based on the way they look, and it is not based on anything else other than that. But I appreciate you asking that question. Anyone that is not okay with some aspect of their life, whether it be economic situations, whether it be the way they feel, whether they can't be around their people. That was something that I struggled with. I had deep-seated resentments against my family, and this was horrible. I would actively avoid them. So one gentleman I dealt with not long ago was working with me. His family had essentially exiled him due to his low-level behavior, and he was working with me because I spoke openly about brokenness that I had experienced in my upbringing and that I was perpetuating in my relationship. So the message is universal. Folks come to me from all walks of life.
So you deal with mental health, but then also, do you deal with aspects of fitness, or is this just a system of teaching people how to feel better with their weight if they're overweight? Or do you incorporate fitness into your program?
It is impossible to feel good about yourself if you do not look good. Fitness is mandatory, and I don't take days off from my program. Now, for some clients that I work with, they only can train 3, 4, 5 times a week, and that's okay. But the more disciplined one is and dedicated to their fitness, the more disciplined and dedicated one will be to their mental health. The two are the same. Working out saved my life, period. If I was not able to be in the gym regularly, I would have the serious mental health issues that I used to have. Working out is an anxiety reliever. Working out is a depression reliever. Working out also helps you with your weight. So working out is mandatory. I write custom fitness programs for all of my clients to go along with custom nutrition plans for all of my clients. And that's the two-headed attack that we wage against our mental battles, our physical battles. And it's mandatory. Working out is mandatory. We must make ourselves strong physically if we're going to be strong mentally. I
am so glad to hear you say that, because I feel like sometimes people will forget the fitness part of it. And I agree with you 100%. I actually come out of the fitness industry, was photographing athletes when I decided to start kind of this whole journey down the transformation through trauma journey. And I started, fitness plays such an integral role in people overcoming. And I do believe it goes back to the mindset, how we view things. And if we can be disciplined, if you can be disciplined in fitness and in the way that you eat and in the way that you take care of yourself, your health, if you're disciplined in those things, you can learn discipline in all areas of life. I truly believe.
I was going to say absolutely. And fitness is one of the few things that we are always in control of. Something that drove me to deep states of negativity, and I know that hurts a lot of other people, is a feeling that their life is out of control, or there are certain things that they need to feel in control of that are being controlled by other people. This is like relationship stuff, family stuff, economic stuff, jobs are lost, people in their life are lost, people perish. Unfortunately, there are breakups, things like that. And this drives people to a spiral of being out of control. It makes them feel out of control. Your fitness is something that anyone in any situation can be in control. And anyone who doesn't believe me needs to look at the prisoners that come out of jail in the most incredible shape. And before anyone says that they have more time, if there's someone making excuses as to why a prisoner can do what you cannot, the levels of delusion are absurd. But this is something that someone in the most dire circumstances with intent can eat and work out with intent and regain control of your life. And if you are in control of your fitness, your physical health, it's going to send the universe an incredible message. This person is in control. This person has taken an out of control situation and made him or herself in control. When I was drug using and out every weekend and chasing momentary pleasure, I was doing that because I felt a lack of control in my life. And when I was at the club, high as a kite, or trying to hook up, or do any of that, I thought that this was going to give me a sense of control. But what this did was put these things in control of me. I ceded control of my life to the drugs, to the alcohol, to the party life. And in doing so, I became even more out of control. Once I cut that off and I controlled my habits through a program of personal development, through physical discipline, through controlling what I eat, through waking up early, because I wake up extremely early every day, I regained control over my life. And I haven't looked back since. I couldn't imagine the loss of control. That would be it for me. That would be it for me if I went back to that lost way. And when I look around, I live in, believe it or not, I live in sort of like a nightlife area of Manhattan. I live on the Lower East Side. I've been in my own world for so long. When I bought this place, I didn't know this neighborhood had changed into a kind of an out scene. I will turn in at night and hear people on the street going to mess their lives up. And then I will wake up in the morning at 4 a.m. and I will hear either them or their contemporaries doing the thing that I used to do on the regular. I used to be out coming back from the club at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning and see people out on their job. And I was laughing at them. I was thinking these people are out of control, which is hilarious. I was so ripped and destroyed. I had done these things to myself that, it's a total inversion. Now that I'm on this side and I can view things as they are instead of the way I wish them to be, it's just a total mindset shift. And it comes down to physical fitness. I make time every day to eat correctly, to prepare my meals, to work out. I've actually been working out twice a day recently just because I'm looking to advance myself even further. And it doesn't surprise me to hear that, because you're in good shape. I can tell that you come from this background of understanding that physical wellness and discipline linked to mental wellness and mental well-being.
And I love all of that. I know, like, when I went through a divorce about 5 years ago, and that was, I laugh and I tell people I got in the very best shape of my life during that time. Most people, where they gain weight or do whatever, I was actually getting in great shape. And I laugh about it, but it's so true. Like, when life is good, I tend to get a little bit out of shape because, I'm enjoying life. I'm getting to eat what I want. But I love the way that you describe it as control, because that's exactly what it was for me. And I will tell people, working out is the thing that has gotten me through so much. And after working with athletes, specifically with athletes that some of them were not athletes before they went through whatever trauma they've been through, and then they turn to working out to get through it. When everything is chaos and everything's out of control, this is the sense of control that you have. And there's so much to learn within the fitness space, within working out, eating healthy, taking care of yourself. And on top of that, you do feel better. That's the beauty of it all. It's a domino effect. So you start working out, you start feeling better, you start losing some weight, then you feel better about yourself. So I love that you incorporate that. I think a lot of coaches should incorporate more of that in with mental health, because I think it does correlate 100%.
Unfortunately, a lot of people in every space, I'm not going to air out coaches, but a lot of people in every space are unwilling to do the work necessary in order to get the desired result for themselves. So because they're not willing to do the work necessary, they have cognitive dissonance if they were to say, hey, do this thing that I'm not willing to do. Unfortunately, there are the real charlatans who will say, do this thing that I'm not willing to do. But most people don't focus on it because they themselves are unwilling to do so. I want to speak about transformation for a moment. My transformation was predicated on a breakup. So we walked a similar path in that respect. My last serious relationship ended, and I went into the deepest pit of pleasure chasing. I was a single guy, so I was doing single guy stuff all the time. And that drove me to death's door. And at that point, I decided to turn my life around. And if you look at my before picture, you can see that I had limited athletic experience. Something I tell folks all the time is, if you're just a big guy, you have standard deviations advanced on where I started. If you played ball in high school, if you used to hit the gym, you were in the military, if you did anything athletic for any amount of time, you will advance far more rapidly than I could have had I not devoted my entire life to it. Like most guys, and I work with women as well, but most, and I'll speak on guys because it's easier for guys to get muscle. Most guys did something athletic. I never did anything like it. So when you speak on people, athletes that used to work with that weren't athletic, I had never touched a barbell. I couldn't do one pull-up. I could not do 5 burpees, and I could not do 10 push-ups. And I'm so glad I was in that low state, because in getting to the position I am now, folks can check out my after pictures. It showed me what is possible. And it shows me, and actually gets me a little ticked off, because when I see dudes and I can see underneath that they have muscle tone, it bums me out, because all they need to do is learn how to eat and do what they used to do, and they'll be fine. I had to learn all this from scratch, and I don't care. I'm happy about it, because the greater the adversity surmounted, the stronger the mindset. That was transformative for me. I had to learn how to learn to do stuff. I wasn't just learning a new skill set. I didn't have the cognitive ability to learn new skill sets, because I'd never done anything around nutrition and fitness. So I had to learn the ability to even think about using a food scale, learning about macros, understanding that through body weight exercise, you can change your life. I did not go to a gym to achieve my transformation. The one at the top of my page, I did entirely in my apartment and on the street, literally on the street, outside of my apartment. So I had to teach myself all of that. And I'm so grateful that you brought up the idea of folks coming from limited athletic abilities. There is space for everyone in the fitness and mental health world. It doesn't matter really where you start out as. Matter of fact, if you are extremely overweight or obese, you don't have to work out to lose weight. Like the lower the position you start in, the greater the weight loss will be up front. There might be challenges around other things that you're dealing with, because you're probably extremely lazy, but there is room for advancement everywhere. I thought myself lost. Like I literally thought that this is how bad I was against my family. I cursed my genetic composition. I thought I had been cursed with the inability to have a six-pack. That's how misguided, vain, self-limiting, and resentful I was. I actually thought I couldn't get a six-pack. And through this program of personal development, which changed every aspect of my being, inside and out, it just transformed me, because I had transformed what I did every day by not chasing pleasure, by chasing my purpose, by not chasing ego and trying to shed as much of it as I can. I was able to transform into the person I am today. And I'm so grateful for everything I have now, because I know how close I was to losing it all.
You and I have a similar background. I smile because, excuse me, I laugh because I also, when I started working out, so I did start very early. I started in high school. I was really self-conscious about being very skinny. I was 98 pounds in high school, like tiny, but I had kind of a wider bone structure. So I just was really unhappy, like lanky. I just didn't like my body. And so I started working out. And I remember I took a weight training class, and there was people in the weight training class. I could lift less than everybody in the whole class. I couldn't even pick up the bar. I couldn't even bench press the bar. Like I was no fitness ability, none whatsoever. But there is something that comes along with the determination. And I love this idea of having a choice. And I think it goes not only with fitness, like I've made up my mind that I'm going to get in shape. I've made up my mind that I'm going to go on a diet. I've made up my mind that I'm going to get in a healthy place, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever that looks like. But I think people have to realize they have power to make the choice. And then once the choice is made, then they find someone like yourself who can help navigate them through that journey. Because sometimes I feel like people will get discouraged. They'll go on this journey, they make the choice, they try to go on this journey of like fitness or mental health or whatever their goals are. And because they don't have help, and it takes consistent action, dedicated action, that sometimes people fall off. Do you ever find that, or do you work with people that has had that happen to them?
That's the biggest thing. I am not happy with the way things are done these days. And I do speak very forcefully and very frequently about what we have been robbed of. And one of the main things that we have been robbed of in the contemporary setting is mentorship, guidance. I don't know where your people came from, but some hundreds of years ago, your group lived in an area that had necessitated leaders and mentors in order to make sure young people were okay. And like the group, there was a group of hundreds or thousands of individuals, and they knew each other. Maybe they were related, maybe there was intermarriage, maybe there was some sort of kinship network based on some shared thing. And through that, there were people that went through adversity, did not perish, and were anointed as leaders. There were holy men and women. There were great warriors that came back with like their face destroyed, but they're alive. So that's the guy you're going to talk to about battle. There was typically in the female space, it was around healing and related matters relating to birth. So let's say you were interested in becoming someone that helped women give birth, and you would go to this sage and study and be with them. This is guidance. Where did the tales come from? Tales predated writing, which means they had to be passed down through the spoken word, which meant people had to gather around to hear the tales. Like, this is what the modern world has robbed us of. Leadership, guidance, cultural transmission, coaching. These are not strange things. Why do you go to the pastor for religious advice? Because this person has a specialized set of knowledge. Why do you go to this person to get that? But when it comes to life, there's no one to go to. You're going to go to your teacher that's underpaid and overworked. You're going to go to your doctor whose bills are massively inflated that has to go through school for 10 years. Okay, what about life? What about matters of the heart, like relationship? What about the relationship to yourself? That's the thing. You have relationship coaches and people think it's about boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, fiance, or whatnot. The most important relationship is the relationship to the self. And that's what coaching is. That's used to go to the guy, like that was the dude. He was the shaman. He was a little out there, but he had the answers. And every time you left him, you knew what was going on because this man or woman had dedicated his life or her life to the pursuit of this metaphysical love, this knowledge. And too often the people I speak with have attempted to get fit themselves, have attempted to do all these things themselves. We are all in this together. No one is alone. That's some other BS that we've been sold part and parcel in this material world, that we're somehow alone. We're alone in our pain, so take the Lexapro. We're alone in this, so do this thing. You're alone, hop on the dating app. You feel alone, go to the club. You can just all be miserable together. Nobody is alone. When I walk down the streets of Manhattan, the amount of people I see in pain, like most individuals, I can immediately look at, you have resentments. You're a neurotic mess. You have problems with food. You're a drug addict. Like, these things are way obvious. And if we had a way, which we do, which is online coaching, when people begin to wake up and realize that we are not alone, I couldn't get to where I hired a coach. That was the thing that changed my life. I was at death's door. I found someone that made it through the fire and was not consumed. And I reached out to this person to get my life on track. It works. It's the only thing that works. Everyone feels atomized, divided, especially in big cities. We're in these boxes. Fortunately, we have the beauty of social media to connect, where you and I connected online, and we can connect with like-minded individuals through energy exchange and work with them. When I work with my guys and I see them lose weight, it brings tears to my eyes because I know what it means. When I speak to my guys and I hear that the pain of a workout has replaced the internal spiritual pain that they were carrying, there's nothing else. Nothing else works but this. And this is what people were robbed of and replaced with garbage food, garbage booze, hookup culture, the cheating culture that I was definitely a part of. I did all of the things I speak out against. One of my favorite phrases is, you hate on what you gave up on. Every negative word that I speak is a reflection upon the man I used to be. I gave up on all of that, and so I will speak forcefully against it now. And when I hear people speaking forcefully against living a life of positivity, I know it's because they've given up on that.
God, that is so good. That's so good. I don't know that I've necessarily looked at it in exactly the way that you just said it, but it's so true. And I just was having a conversation yesterday. I had gone to a coffee shop, and these people run a ministry out of their coffee shop. As we were talking, I'm telling them, like, past couple churches I've gone to have been mega churches. And we were talking about how in these big churches, sometimes you can get lost. And it's so funny that you bring this up, because in New York, where people are there's like people everywhere. Well, I've never been to New York, but that's how I would imagine it. But people get lost in the
Right.
mix. Yeah, people get lost in the mix, and it's like, but everyone is important. Everyone is important, and you're not alone. And it's so funny to me how people can feel. I understand it. I'm not saying disregarding it. I understand how you can feel alone in when you're around so many other people. I've been there before myself. I think that's why it's so great what you're doing. And my heart behind this podcast is just so people know that, hey, if you're in the middle of this trauma, there's hope on the other side. There's other people that have been through it and they've pulled through it. That's why, the pillars of the podcast, from trauma to transformation to triumph to the takeaway, that's why it's important that I hit those pillars, because I want people to know if you are the person in that trauma, there's hope. And the guests that I have on here have been through it and pulled through it. And so I think it's so important, like what you're doing, because you're coaching people through that journey, and that's beautiful.
I appreciate that. I'll add one more T, and that's transmutation. Because the way I see it, our trauma is our prerequisite for growth. Had I not experienced negativity and then brought negativity into my soul, I would have nothing to transmute into the fissile core of who I am. And that transmutation of trauma, of pain into growth and positivity is a triumph unto itself. It is the triumph. It's the hero's journey. Place of negativity, acts of positivity, place of positivity. This is a tale as old as time, and New York is an incredibly alienating place. I have friends, I have people walking a similar path in rural areas and around the world. And the message is universal, but I find that New York City is perhaps the most alienating place I've ever been to, because it is possible when we laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone. If you are crying alone in a city of 8.5 million, you are really alone. And that's where I was. I mean, man, after the breakup, you can get anything delivered to your home. So I'd get whatever I wanted delivered to my home, and then I would use whatever I wanted, and then I would feel totally alone. I was in the middle of the city. Every place is pretty much the middle of the city, and feeling alone. And that was horribly traumatic. And I transmuted that trauma into fuel. I would be working out in the morning, 4:35 a.m. on the street with no one around but junkies. It was winter when I started this program, January, so it was freezing. You can imagine the situation. I'd be in tears. I would have tears freezing on my cheeks, thinking about the people I had disrespected, literally the faces of people in my life I had disrespected, cheated on, and it's been awful to, the activities I'd engaged in to hurt myself and others. I really had to use this pain from my trauma to transmute into a transformation so I could finally triumph. And it was brutal. And anyone who thinks that getting past their pain is going to be easy is totally misguided. Don't get it wrong. My program is simple. But if it was easy, then everyone would not be obese and or anxious and or depressed. What's easy is to eat the cheeseburger, hop on the dating app, go to the club, drink the gin. I used to need like minimum 4 drinks before I went out. I used to really think I needed that. Like that's a story I told myself, that I need this alcohol, I need these mushrooms, I need this drug, I need these people in my life to hang out with. It's absolutely insane. And New York, and I'm guessing many other places, because unfortunately this way of American life is the dominant global culture. This is the nexus of it. I mean, every Subway ad is for something I just described. It's either the cause of anxiety or the anti-anxiety drug, which is so twisted and Orwellian. I read from Orwell a lot. It influenced me greatly. And what he talked about is it's writ large in New York. You're being sold the alcohol and the Xanax at the same time. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's this idea of putting a Band-Aid on a wound. It's like, if you have infection in a wound, you got to get the infection out. You can't just put a Band-Aid on it and expect it to get better. And I think this is what so many people do, is when they're dealing with mental health issues or whatever, they're putting a Band-Aid on it. So you go out, you drink the alcohol, you do the drugs, you party, you sleep with hundreds of people, and you expect that this is going to make you feel better, and it doesn't. Why doesn't it? Because it's putting a band-aid on it. You're never digging into the root of the issue. You're never seeking. You said something so profound earlier when it's like, it's the self. You have to find yourself. That's what this journey of life is about. But it's finding yourself in a healthy, constructive way. Because when you start looking outside of those things and you look for those things that are faulty, those things that are not going to bring true joy and fulfillment, you're fighting a losing battle. You're putting a band-aid on an infection that's not going to get better.
It's impossible to win that battle. And what if the wound is internal? Then people are even more lost. It isn't even an external wound for a lot of people. You have a wound in your soul and your heart from departure. That this is something I know for sure. The vast majority of people's pain comes from the absence of an individual in their life. And the way I see it, there are 4 ways this could have occurred. A freak accident. This family member or person was taken from you. They killed themselves using their poor habits. Let's say that, they drank themselves to death. They died in an untimely manner due to their own whatever. They broke up with you, the absence. And the 4th is that they weren't there in the way that you needed them. This is a abandonment situation. People, typically parents, aren't around. They're choosing something else instead of being there for you. And those 4 things create an internal void. There's a hole. This person used to be in your life or should have been in your life in this way, and they're gone. And this is an absence that you can't heal with anything, but you pour the vodka in it. And until that hole is healed yourself, you'll be forever chasing. And that's just fine. The system would love us all to be chasing forever, but it's not fine. And that hole can be healed, but it must be healed from within. There's no Band-Aid for a soul wound.
No, not at all. So talk to us a little bit. I'm going to kind of shift gears just a little bit, although this is totally in alignment with what we're talking about. Suicidal ideations, like I think a lot of people more than will admit it have been on that place of at least having suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideations. Talk to us a little bit about your experience with that and what you do to kind of help people through that, because that's like the pinnacle of depression, I feel like.
You're right. And it comes down to taking a lot of negative acts. When we take acts that lower the way we think about ourselves, then our self-worth is going to track with that. So at base, hurting yourself with substances, not showing up on time, breaking your word, cheating, lying, these are at base universally low-level acts. And so if the actor continues to lower their level, reduce their worth, and destroy their value, they will feel low level, worthless, and without value. And once your value becomes low enough, you experience pain. The pain of being a low-level loser, the man I was. The pain of having poor values, the person I was. The pain of feeling worthless, as I was. And so then you begin to tell yourself these things. You are a loser. You are without worth. You are valueless. And the person that tells himself these things enough will begin to believe it. It's about the story we tell. The story we tell is one we tell with our actions. You act a certain way every day, tell yourself this story, then the story becomes real. You begin to believe the story. Then you think, well, the story I tell myself is that I have no worth. Why am I even here? I'm in pain every day. I used to wake up with a 100-pound weight on my chest, anxiety. I used to fall asleep with tons of intoxicants in my bloodstream, depression. And so this is who I was. I was this dark, depressed, I think I was clinically obese. So let's say clinically obese individual, obsessed with self-destruction, on horrible terms with everyone he knows, fresh out of a breakup. Not that I was good in my relationships anyway. And once you are doing these things for long enough, they become real. And so then I was telling myself, well, pain is too great. What are you even doing here? Why are you here? What's the point? You're worthless. What I do now is I write myself a completely different story, one of value building, one of taking worthy acts, one of self-love. The man or woman that engages in self-destructive acts hates themselves because they're doing self-hatred stuff. And if you hate something, you're going to want to destroy it. And when you want to destroy something bad enough, well, you can connect the dots. And that too is what drove me to ask for help. You said something great earlier. You said a lot of people deal with this, but very few are willing to admit it. You can just sum up the contemporary discourse in that. A lot of people are dealing with this, but very few people are willing to admit it because their ego is too high. A lot of people would rather be in pain than be honest, which is nuts. So many people prefer the cold comfort of pain over the drop your ego shield for 2 minutes to reach out to someone who has healed that very same pain. And the worst pain I ever felt is the pain of wanting to end my life. I mean, there's nothing worse. It became so great and so overwhelming. I'd be on the subway heading to work thinking, you are absolutely worthless. You have no value in this world. What are you doing still alive? That's because I hurt so many people. The pain that I felt, the pain that we feel, is simply an internalization of whatever pain we have externalized. That's karmic debt to a T. If you feel pain, you have done something to someone else, or you are not doing something for yourself. Mm-hmm. The pain of disliking your body image can be absolved with intentional nutrition and working out. The pain of regret of cheating on your significant other can be absolved by being honest with yourself and what you really want out of love, which is to be fully dedicated to one person forever, which is what all of us want, despite what most of us do. That's how you absolve yourself of these things. And it just comes down to being honest.
I totally agree with you. And I don't know where this is or how. I'm fascinated with the way the mind works and the brain, but I do believe that, obviously what we think about, what we attract what we think about. So like if we're constantly telling ourselves, I'm worthless, my life sucks, this and that, you're going to attract those kinds of self-worth issues. It is a downward spiral, but the brain fascinates me because there's like a subconscious thing inside of us. We feel like our self-worth is down. So now we are doing these self-destructing things because we feel like we don't deserve to hold ourselves to this higher standard. And it's just it's a spiral, and it's so sad.
It's terrible. That's why I preach an upward spiral, one that never has to end. See, the downward spiral eventually does end. It ends in death. And I guess the upward spiral does as well. The aligned individual, the person that walks this path of congruency, will ultimately perish because we all will. But does one wish to? And this is something else that people totally ignore. Like, you're going to die, and very soon. Here's a John Katz original. The fundamental tension of conscious existence is the foreknowledge that at some indeterminate point in the future, it is due to end. Okay? You are going to die, and soon. So the only thing that matters is your legacy. Did you help those around you? Did you harm those around you? That's all I care about. And the downward spiral person, the person I was, it was pleasure. Where am I going to eat? Who am I going to try to hook up with? What can I get out of this situation? What can I get? It's taking. And then eventually you take your own life. That's the downward spiral. Now the one I'm on is, how can I give? How can I give? How can I give? What's the best way to do this? How many people can I speak with? How many people can I heal? Let's coach. Let's work. Let's love. Let's build. Let's do this right. And then I will reach the same fate. I will perish, but I will perish with love in my heart. I will perish understanding that I did everything I could.
I have a question for you. So when you started this upward spiral, do you find that your life is then much more enjoyable?
I avoid that word, but I don't enjoy much, because enjoyment to me speaks of a high. I appreciate life. I embrace life, but I do my absolute best to stay emotionally regulated. I mean, you know what I enjoy? I'll take that back. I enjoy the work. When I am doing this, when I am energy exchanging via podcast, when I am actively coaching, when I'm working out, I enjoy that more than anything else. When I'm spending quality time with my nephew, who I adore, he's my world, I enjoy that. So let's get that straight. But the idea of an enjoyable life, I don't know if I buy that, at least not in the contemporary conception where, we're celebrating at the bar or we're doing any of that. I don't enjoy things that most people believe would be enjoyable. I think I enjoy everything else. I enjoy the work, like the intense physical work. I've been doing a very serious program of high intensity interval training 3 to 5 times a week on top of my weight training. I enjoy that. What most people would say, oh, I have to go do this and dread it. I enjoy that. I enjoy connecting with people like you. I enjoy posting on social media, which I do multiple times a day. I enjoy working with my clients. I mean, they're like gold to me. It's such a valuable relationship. I enjoy loving myself, but life enjoyment? I don't know. And on the surface, I have every reason to. I just bought my first apartment, something I never thought I would be able to do. I have a number of creative projects in addition to coaching and some like income generating projects. I've essentially been able to craft a holistic income generating thing where I'm working with people on physical and spiritual weight, through coaching, and I'm also working on everything in New York is real estate. So I'm working with people to clear out their apartments, and I'm coaching, and I'm doing stuff related to local food, which I'm super passionate about. I have all these things that on the surface would create an enjoyable life, but for me, it's everything but that I truly enjoy, and that keeps me on the straight and narrow. Because if I would go enjoy life and the slippery slope beckons, like I know who I am, I know how all in I am, and I want to be all in on the work. So when I do get to the next level, and I am afforded the ability to buy my own place, and I am afforded the ability to connect with people like you, and I am in these higher and higher spaces, I don't F it up and just go back. Like I want as much work as possible. I started this second round of fitness because my material circumstances had increased. I had to inflict adversity, self-inflicted positive adversity. There are two types of adversities: the negative stuff that everyone does voluntarily, and the positive stuff that, the negative stuff that people seem to do involuntarily. Like I have to eat this, I have to drink this, I have to sleep with this person, I have to lie. It's like this involuntary twitch thing. And then the voluntary adversity, which is I choose to wake up early, I choose to work out, I choose to love myself, I choose to be open about my trauma, I choose to transmute my pain, I choose to transform my body, I choose to triumph over my adversity. Those are the two things. So a long-winded answer, but that E word, I get that one a lot. Like my people, my folks, folks that I love and dear, they're my blood relatives that are not walking this path, and I don't expect anyone to do it until they're ready to do it. Like it's difficult for people to understand why I didn't celebrate when I closed on this apartment. Like I had to force myself to celebrate. It was with sparkling water, but I had to do this performative act just because that thought pattern is not in my mind. I do not celebrate. It's very dangerous to celebrate in the typical way that people do.
Yeah, and probably a better word for me to have used there would be fulfilled. But I ask that because I find you and I are very similar. It's funny, we didn't talk a lot before we jumped on. I know we chatted a little bit a few weeks ago, but it's so funny to me because I also walked down this really selfish, dark path, doing what made me happy in the moment. And it wasn't until I decided and I made the decision that I'm going to do something with my life. Like I don't want, and I was also on the verge of suicide at one point in my life. And that's when the transformation began for me. And when it was a journey, it wasn't overnight. It wasn't like I was going to commit suicide and I didn't, and now my life transformed. It was like I was going to commit suicide, I didn't, and then I had this long journey of years of transformation. But at the place I'm at now, I can say that I have never been more fulfilled and more happy. And that is because I truly feel like there is something. It's energetic. You mentioned it earlier about the energies. It's energetic where when we are giving, we can receive that gratitude and that joy and that comfort and all the things. It's like, it's hard work. It's hard work to wake up. I also wake up early. You and I feel like we're like soul siblings or something from way back, because I also wake up super early. My friends think I'm crazy. I'm up at 3 or 4 every morning.
Everyone's friends should think they're crazy because their friends are the ones with massive issues around anxiety and depression, and they're not. I encourage everyone to get to a place in life where their friends think they're crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and this is another thing, and I don't want to carry on too long or get on a whole nother topic here, but I will say this. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. You have to do what is between you and if you have a relationship with God or you and yourself or however that looks, you have to do what sets your soul on fire. And I feel like there's something that happens in our culture and in society that puts pressure on people. Pressure that you have to get married, pressure that you have to have kids, pressure that you have to, you have to work a certain kind of job, or you have to make a certain amount of money, or whatever the pressure is. There's all these pressures in life, and you have all these people pressuring you. And to me, it's like I have people tell me, you work too hard. Something that's been on my mind a lot lately because I just recently read a book. Um, it was a book by Grant Cardone, and it was funny because it's totally irrelated, but he says something so profound in the book about, don't let people tell you that you're working too hard. And I'm like, why is it if I want to work hard and I enjoy working hard and it sets my soul on fire to work hard, that I feel the pressure to not work as hard or to take breaks because someone else is inflicting that into my mind? I don't understand that, but I feel like I'm not alone.
You are not alone, and I do understand. I'll tell you why. Because what you do makes people that are not doing it vibrate in a certain way. If you continue to be as positive of an individual as possible, you will show them through an object lesson that they are not doing that. And people don't like to be called out. It feels like accountability feels like an attack until someone is ready to change. What they should be saying is, Amber, you're in great shape. What do I need to do to feel like you do? Amber, you're very successful. You're doing exactly what you wish to every day. What do I need to do that? Amber, you don't have these weird, neurotic, obsessive thought patterns about money like I do. What do I need to do? But that's why they criticize you. You hate on what you gave up on. When I was broke and making no money and working in a windowless room, that is a true story. My first job in New York City after moving back from New Orleans was working in a windowless room. I had a chip on my shoulder about money. I had an axe to grind about money. I had all these issues about money because I wasn't making any, because I was fat and lazy and undisciplined. So I definitely, why don't you take a break thing? Here, I'll give you some free games, some free coaching, you and everyone else. The next time someone says, why don't you take a break? Matter of fact, take a step back. The next time someone gives you a suggestion on anything you're doing, you can respond with this. If I listen to you, will I end up like you? And if the answer is yes, and they say as such, you can say, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to you because I don't want to end up like you. And if the answer is yes, and you do want to end up like them, you can say, oh, thank you so much for the coaching. I'm going to do that. And if the answer is no, then you can call them out for who they are. A hypocritical, charlatan, weirdo, loser. Because you're telling me something that will not get me the results that you have. So what are you speaking about? It's like a fat person giving advice around fitness and nutrition. It's like a broke person giving advice on how to make more money. It's like a person that has deep resentments against their family telling you how to be a loving child, spouse, whatever. It's like a not dedicated family man giving you relation advice on how to get your fiance to love you. Like, these are the psychotic individuals. Listen to Grant Cardone if you want to end up like Grant Cardone. Listen to your player hater friends that I'm guessing are in worse shape than you. I'm guessing aren't pursuing their passion. If you want to end up like them, I do not listen to anyone. Something else I'll speak about myself. I listen to people that are in a position I want to be in. So like the dude that is mega ripped, that's the dude that's going to give me fitness advice. The guy that is able to be okay on a caloric deficit because he has mindset training, that's the person that's going to give me mindset training advice. The person that is pursuing what they wish to do with their life every day, that's the person that's going to give me mindset advice. Everyone else sucks by choice. By choice. You have chosen, one has chosen to not pursue your passion. That was me. I was working in a windowless room for years before that. I was waiting tables. There's no shame in that, but I didn't want to be doing that. I was doing all these jobs I didn't want to be in. I was in relationships I didn't want to be in. I was doing all this stuff I didn't want to be in. And now I just do what makes me feel good every day. Early wake up, social media creation, meditation, internal reflection, fitness, and everything else has come to me. I haven't had to chase any of this. Before I was chasing women, I was chasing pleasure. I was chasing disgusting acts and horrible parties and all that. And nothing came to me. Now I just chase the feeling, and I wouldn't say I have everything. No man has everything, but I have a lot more than I had before. It's weird. The external stuff came to me when I decided to be in alignment internally.
That's it. You said it perfectly. That was perfect.
Let me know how it goes. The next time one of your loser friends gives you advice, please tell them that and then hit me up and let me know how it goes.
Well, I'd say I keep my circle really tight, and I do try to be very conscious of the friends that I keep. But people of all everywhere. Like they always want to give you, put in their 2 cents, even when it's not asked for. So for the guests who are listening, this is a great piece of advice because you have to keep your circle small and you have to be around those that are going to influence you in the right way. And this is why having a coach, having someone I would have a coach in every area of my life, fitness, nutrition, business, money, relationship, whatever. If I had the time and the money to invest in that kind of thing, because I truly believe any area that you want to grow in your life, you do need mentors and you do need someone that's going to help you get past that. And it doesn't mean you have to have all that at one time, but through different periods of your life. So tell us, where people can find you. Tell us, what would you recommend to someone that was looking to maybe embark on coaching?
The first thing to do if you want to become a coach is you need to heal the pain within. After you heal the pain within, and it should be obvious to everyone that you've healed that, only then can you begin to teach others. Now, folks who are looking for coaching, who are in pain and are looking to heal the pain within, can find me on Instagram at NYC Foodways. That is NYC FOODWAYS. It's Foodways Coaching. And I'm here for you. Like, folks need to realize, like, you are not alone. Separateness is an illusion. We are all connected, which is why when people that are close to me are hurting, I feel it. It's why parents understand very, very quickly when their child is in trouble. There is an ethereal, spiritual, God-given life force that links us all, and it's our denial of that that puts us in pain. Once we accept the fact that we are all connected, well, shoot, we don't want to be hurting each other. This is crazy. The Creator has blessed us with life. That's what I had to do. I had to understand that, wow, if I do this act, if I continue to be in this negative state, I'm going to be deeply harming people around me. Let me be the best version of myself in order to heal people around me. And that healing has been transformative. My nuclear family unit is on the best terms it ever has been, simply because I chose to be on the best terms I could be with myself. Anyone in pain, feeling anxious, depressed, dealing with thoughts of negative self-worth, dealing with body image issues, negative self-perception, all of these normalized but abnormal conditions, I urge you to reach out. It is never too late to change. I have coached folks in their 60s. I have coached folks outside of the US. I have coached women. Everyone, the path is open to anyone willing to walk it.
I love that you add the fitness aspect in there as well, because it's so important. So do you have any last thoughts or anything you'd like to add before we kind of close up for today?
Love for self brings love for others. Love for others is love for self. If there are people in your life that you think poorly of, that is a manifestation of some part of your being that you think poorly of. And I urge you all to make the change, to come to terms with what had happened by bringing yourself presence today, so you don't carry that resentment in your heart in the future. They are going to die, and if they're older than you, they're going to die a lot sooner. And the harsh reality is that if you let them go before you heal, you will carry that pain forever.
Life is so short. It's fleeting. And we have to get to that realization that it is short, and you don't want to live with something like that. Like you said, John, that's awesome. Well, I thank you so much. I feel like we've had such a great conversation. I could literally carry this on for another hour, but for time's sake, we won't. But thank you so much for joining us and for just sharing your expertise here. I really appreciate having you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Through the Trauma podcast. If you have found value in this episode or believe in the mission behind what we are doing, please subscribe so that you never miss any future episodes. Also, be sure to check out our transformation project at transformationthroughtraumaproject.com, where we help inspirational stories get heard on a larger scale through multiple platforms. If you know someone who can benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Until next time.